America is known for its freedom, but we never had it at the beginning. Nevertheless, we had to fight for it. We were slaves to Britain. Instead of originally having independence, we had to fight and protest for it. The 13 colonies had nothing to do with the war until after the war, when the British government placed a taxation of tea towards the colonies for war debt because they believed that the fight in the war was done to defend them. The colonists were not happy. The Sons of Liberty planned to show how they felt about the taxation. They boarded the British ship, docked in Boston Harbor, dressed up as Indians, and dumped the entire load of tea into the water. Since the British government made the colonies pay war debt, they imposed more taxations onto the colonies. These taxations are known as the Intolerable Acts. These Intolerable Acts were meant to punish the actions of the Massachusetts colonists at the Boston Tea Party. Because of the Intolerable Acts, it put the colonies in economic depression.
All around me are familiar faces, worn out places.
The Intolerable Acts were the Stamp Act, the Sugar Act, and the Courting Act. In the Stamp Act, colonists were obligated to pay a fee on almost every piece of paper used for legal documents. The Sugar Act was passed by the British to pay for the French Indian War. In the Courting Act, colonists had to house soldiers in their own homes. It also meant that they had to pay a tax for provisions for the army. Colonists were angry, so they protested against these acts. British troops in the Massachusetts Bay Colony were there to stop discriminations against the Intolerable Acts, but instead they provoked outrage, which resulted in the death of 5 colonists. The Intolerable Acts spurred the convening of the First Continental Congress in 1774. Delegates from each 13 colonies met in Philadelphia as the First Continental Congress to organize colonial resistance to the Parliament's acts. The delegates sent a letter to King George III explaining the issues and how the colonies have been treated. They demanded for the king to stop the Intolerable Acts or they were boycotted. The Continental Congress wasn't the only one who used a paper and pen to get their message through. Thomas Paine did too.
I'm in common sense about Thomas Paine. Some men say that I'm intense or I'm insane. You want a revolution? I want a revelation. So listen to my declaration. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. And when I'm Thomas Jefferson, I'm a compelling truth. Women in the sequel.
After the First Battle of the War, Paine wrote Common Sense and began to argue that the American colonists should seek complete independence rather than merely fighting to free themselves from unfair taxation from Britain. The Continental Congress agreed to meet again if Britain didn't address their complaints. The Second Continental Congress debated whether or not to declare themselves as an independent nation or stay under Britain's rule. While delegates debated, Congress chose a committee to write the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence announced that the 13 colonies regarded themselves as a nation. General Cornwallis surrendered to George Washington as French and American forces trapped the British at the Battle of Yorktown. Now Britain finally acknowledged the independence of the U.S. The American Revolution was a time where a lot of people did important things to help form the new country. This revolution is not a whole lot different than any other one that has been taking place in history. It just sort of proves that no matter where you are, your ideas and opinions make a difference. Some of the people in this revolution had good ideas, which weren't acknowledged until they died.